Hi, I'm Peggy Farren, and we are live with the Understand Photography Show, where we talk about travel, nature, and fine art photography. Welcome to episode 95. Today, Joe Fitzpatrick is going to give us some tips on how to take great pictures in bad lighting. Now, what do you do when it's a cloudy, miserable day? Well, we're going to talk about that on today's show. And as you know, but I'm going to remind you, the Understand Photography Show is live on our Facebook page at 4 p.m. Eastern Time every Friday. And then on Saturdays, we upload the recording to YouTube and also to, we upload it to SoundCloud, which puts it out to iTunes and Stitcher and wherever else, so you can listen to the Understand Photography Show as a podcast. Our signature class, the 4 weeks to proficiency in photography, starts August 1st. Now that is a live class. I'm there with you, and you're going to learn to shoot in the manual mode. You're going to learn about composition in the second class, lighting, including flash photography in the third class, and the fourth class I call it the techie stuff because it's like metering modes and drive modes and focus points and all kinds of things like that. But you're ready by the fourth week because every week you have a lot of support from your teacher, which is me, but you also have homework every day that really helps you understand and helps the information sink into your brain. So check out our new website. Actually, we got a new website this week, understandphotography.com, and you'll find information about the class on there. Again, starts August 1st. This is my last live show here in Naples for a little while because I'm heading on the road. So if you're up in Massachusetts, please come. I'm going to be speaking at the Cape Cod Art Center Camera Club on July 12th, so that's next Friday. The program is at 7 p.m. I'm going to be talking about creative uses for flash photography, so lots of cool stuff, you know, like second curtain sync, first curtain sync. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff, multiple things like that. July 13th through the 15th, I am one of the speakers at the New England Camera Club Conference. I think that's what it's called, necccc.org. It's the largest camera club convention in the United States and the oldest. I think this is the 72nd year or something like that. So it's a big honor for me. So if you're in Massachusetts or in New England in general, come to this conference. There are amazing speakers, all kinds of cool stuff. And then say hello to me. July 27th through the 29th, I'll be at SWMCC, swmccc.org. That's in Holland, Michigan. I'll be speaking there, and then I'll be teaching at the Lightroom in Panama City, Florida on my way home on August 4th and 5th. All right, now if you're on our Facebook page, then you know we've started a contest, or it's not really a contest, I guess it's a drawing, a weekly drawing. So we are leading up to our 100th show, right? Today's episode 95. Our 100th show is going to be on August 10th, featuring the famous Artie Morris, which is very exciting in its own. But we're having a drawing starting today. So if you haven't entered our drawing yet, then you need to. Just go onto our Facebook page. You can like our page, or better yet, join our Facebook group. So if you see go to understandphotography.com/ go to facebook.com/understandphotography. You'll like our page, and then you can click on group and join the group because you'll get more updates on the group. So anyway, join the contest. It doesn't cost anything to join the contest, and we're going to have a different prize each week. So this week is the first week. We're using a software that randomly picks a winner. So the winner this week, Joe, you want to give me a drum roll? Like this. The winner this week is Sonia Helene. Okay, Sonia, you have won this book, Florida Photo Spots, Naples and Collier County by Joe Fitzpatrick and me, Peggy Farren. So it's a guidebook for this area. We put all kinds of effort into this. So hopefully you will really enjoy the book. We're going to ship that to you, and since we're both here today, we're going to sign it, so you'll have an autographed copy of our book. Oops. Also check our website for our upcoming trips this year because they're selling really well. So I think they're all going to sell out probably quickly. So check them out. Our guest today is Joe Fitzpatrick, who is our lead photographer or lead instructor here at Understand Photography, because he's like a walking encyclopedia of photography. This man knows so much. He's really a good instructor because he's one of those rare people who can, he's like super technical, but he can also explain things simply so the rest of us can understand. So welcome, Joe.
Good to be here, Peggy.
Good to be here.
Good to be here instead of back there. Today we have Perrette. She's manning the controls back there and the cameras and everything.
Go, Perrette.
Hey, go.
It's Perrette's first live show, so there's no pressure at all on her.
No, not at all. You know, it's live, so don't worry about it, you know.
All right, so I had this idea in mind for a blog topic, and then I thought this is better. This will be a better show. Mm-hmm. But, you know, okay, the reason I thought of this topic, a year and a half ago or whatever, you and me and some other people went up to Dead Lakes, Florida, which is amazing.
Yes, fantastic
because you
place.
do it, and you do a photo tour up in that area.
Coast.
The Forgotten Coast. So we went up there and we rented a boat with the boat captain, with Captain Matt on Dead Lakes. I forgot the name of his company, Matt Godwin. Anyway, I'll put it in the show notes. Anyway, we got up before sunrise. We got on the boat, and it was drizzling and miserable and rainy and yucky. And I thought, you know, this is a good topic. What do you photograph when it's miserable like that? We were hoping for a beautiful sunrise and all this other stuff. So let's start with that. What would you, well, you were there. What did you do on Dead Lakes? What do you do when it's a miserable day like that? Just the clouds weren't pretty. They were just like solid gray.
Yeah. Well, typically a day like that, if I wasn't on a boat, I would have just found a bar or a Starbucks and just gone there for the day. But we were kind of stuck out on the water, so you have to do something. It's water with a D. I'm from Philadelphia, so it's water. Yeah. So in a situation like that, you try to not have the sky in the shot. I mean, it's going to be terrible. And it's going to be terrible whether you do it in color or you do it in black and white. It's just going to be that dead, flat white. You know, if it's a thunderstorm kind of thing or that kind of clouds, that's great.
Yeah, we like crunchy clouds.
I mean, they're nice, but if you just got that dead, boring sky like that, which is unusual here for Florida, but is very typical of the whole Northeast in the winter. You know, I was up in Pittsburgh in November a year ago, and it was like that the entire week I was up there. And I went up there to shoot cityscapes and stuff like that. So with the sky there, you couldn't do it. So what you do is, instead of trying to get the big picture where you have all the sky in it, shoot lower. Get the sky out of the scene. You know, find something more interesting. If it's a landscape, you don't have to have all the mountain peaks in the shot. You can go down lower and maybe just get the trees and a road going through the trees, or a lake or a stream or something like that, and get the sky out of the shot, because it's not doing you any good at all.
Okay.
So you can do that. That was a little difficult at Dead Lakes with the position we were in, but basically that's what you do. Instead of using your wide angle lens where you're typically going to get a lot of sky in the shot, go for a mid-range lens or a telephoto even, so you can come in closer and just pick out subjects, a tree, a dead stump that we had up at the lakes there, or something like that. You try and isolate, you try and cut in anything to get rid of that sky, because that sky is going to look terrible no matter what you want to do.
Okay.
I mean, you can post-process put a whole different sky in, you know, and that's always
Which, by the way, I have a class, an online. All of our online classes are on sale for the summer. I forgot to give that little commercial. And one of the classes is called Photoshop for Nature Photographers. And I took one of those pictures from Dead Lakes that day, and I swap out the sky, because it's really hard to swap out skies when you have the little leaves like that, you know. So I thought, I'm going to take the most difficult picture I can do and teach people how to do it on a difficult picture. So on an easier picture, it'll be no big deal. Anyway, that's called Photoshop for Landscape Photographers. It's on sale for only $39. So check it out. Understandphotography.com. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, when you're doing that, you have to watch it, because you have to make sure that the sky, the light on the clouds is coming from the same direction that it is on the land. You know, where it looks
What?
like.
You completely threw me off on that one.
Okay, in other words, you have this sky that you shot. Well, was the sky illuminated from the...
Oh, you're talking about when I'm swapping
when you're swapping
skies.
it, yeah, when you're swapping
Right,
it in, you
and
have to...
I cover that in the class.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
covered in the
You do
class.
have to watch that, or it looks really weird when you have
the lighting.
two different things.
Correct.
You got to watch the lighting. But, you know, that's one alternative you can do. But I'm more of a guy, I'd rather get the shot when I do it. I don't want to spend 4 hours swapping out skies and all this stuff in Photoshop. So, again, I'll come in close. I'll rethink the subject that I went out for. Maybe I went out to do this mountain vistas, landscape, and all this stuff with all these craggy peaks and all, and I don't have that. Okay. So again, I can come in and I can focus tighter and focus on something more interesting. Maybe look for a higher vantage point so I can shoot down into the scene, and that will help eliminate the sky. Instead of shooting straight or a little bit up, get higher and shoot down. You don't usually do this when you're photographing mountains, because you usually try and photograph mountains from the lowest point so they look taller. You know, the mountain peak, you're looking down. So get up there and shoot down at stuff. Shoot at a lake or a river from up higher. Anything to get that sky out of the shot. Okay. That's your big effort there, is to try and get it out.
I think like at the Dead Lake, since there are no mountains in Florida, but the cypress trees were beautiful. Yeah. But you're right, if you can isolate the tree, like instead of doing a landscape, do one tree. And that would be a pretty shot.
Yeah, you know, and that goes even sometimes when you got a good sky. There's nothing wrong with taking a shot like that. Every once in a while, I'll see a subject and get in tight on it. It makes a much better picture than having all wide kind of things like that. I had a guy on one of my workshops a couple of years ago in the Everglades, and everybody was taking wide shots of this vista, and he focused on this one tree, and he was taking the branches and everything, and he was doing some amazing work at it, because he was just doing something a little different than what was typically do there. He was turning them into abstract patterns on it. So, you know, it was a good eye.
So, especially since we were on the water, looking for reflections is another, even though they were soft reflections, because the cloud, the sky was pretty yucky, but actually we could have, I didn't even think of this till now, we probably could have got, when it was raining, we probably could have got the water and drops in the, you know, close-ups of the water drops in the water might have been cool. I didn't think of that until just now.
and that's going to be better when you're doing that and you're just trying to shoot the reflection. Remember, you're getting the sky again and the reflection. So if it's a calm water, it's just going to be the same boring color. So you want the ripples in the water. You want the water disturbed, because that's going to add patterns and interest to that water. If it's flat, it's going to look just like the sky, just as boring. So you want to have those ripples, you know. So throw somebody off the boat if you have to. You know, just get those ripples going.
All right, what else?
So, you know, that's one thing you can do. The other thing is to do the sky when it's that kind of pure gray like that. It's a big softbox. So you have the perfect kind of light for a portrait. It's great for portraits, because usually in a portrait, if you're outdoors, you're usually trying to find shade to do them in or something like that to get a softer light. Well, here you have this giant softbox. You know, and it's fantastic. So you can take portraits. Again, though, when you're taking the portrait, be aware of your background. You don't want to do them against the sky. Do them against an interesting background.
Well, also, as a portrait photographer, it drives me crazy when people say that, because just because there are clouds in the sky doesn't mean you're going to have good light. It's going to be better light.
Yeah.
But it's not good light, because the sun is still up above, so you're still going to have the shadow, the raccoon eyes is what and so they're just not going to be as dark or as pronounced.
Yeah, but it depends on how much reflectivity you get.
Yeah, you still need to get some light into the person's eyes.
You need to get a little bit of a kick, but you can do that with a little bit of fill flash or a little bit of reflector.
But it's a much softer light.
Much softer.
So it's a much easier light to do portraits in.
It's much easier, and there's.
But it's not a good light for portraits.
No, but there's less dynamic range there too. So if you're doing a traditional bride and groom where she's in the white outfit with all the little details and all, and the groom's in a black tux, you can actually get some detail in the groom's tuxedo as well as getting all the detail in the bride's gown.
It's been a long time since you've done a wedding.
Yeah.
I don't think they wear tuxedos anymore.
Somewhere they must, you know. But in any kind of situation where you have, you're just not doing high end enough, you know. I mean, you know, they were wearing a tux over there in England when they just did the, you know, the princess there got married,
that's
you know.
right.
So
I didn't do that wedding.
you're just not up there at the right level, you know. So on a day like that, you're praying for an overcast day.
Yes.
Cut down your dynamic range so you can get more detail in both the shadows and the highlights and get all that texture in the ground.
And probably macro photography would be better on like flowers.
Fantastic for flowers, yeah. I mean, because a lot of flower photographers, what they'll do, under normal circumstances, a lot of them, they actually carry like a light tent around with them.
Yeah.
You know, and put the flowers in a light tent. Why? To get a nice diffused, even lighting all overhead. Well, on a day like that, you don't, because you have diffuse lighting.
Right.
And as you pointed out, it does still have some directionality.
Yeah.
Because the sun's up there somewhere. So you have some directionality unless it's high noon. So you will get a little bit of shadows to model the flowers, but it's that nice soft light. And light like that too, when you have desaturated subtle colors like you have in some flowers, it brings them out more.
Oh, okay.
You tend to lose them in bright light. But in the light like that, the desaturated colors tend to have a little more punch to them, a little more oomph. Okay.
So if you're here, let's say you have on vacation in Naples, Florida, and it's raining.
It doesn't rain in Naples, Florida. Ask the Chamber of Commerce. They tell you it doesn't rain in Naples.
Only every day in the summer. But a rainy day or cloudy day, it'd be good to go to the botanical gardens and take pictures of the flowers and.
Absolutely, it's fantastic. A day like that is really nice for that. You can go and there again, be aware of what you're doing. If you're going to do a field of flowers, make sure you're just shooting the field and you're not getting that dull, boring sky in there again, but shoot the colors in there. And if you had a little bit of dew in there, if it's just, sometimes you'll have a sky that's actually just fog lifting, you know, and then you can get some nice foggy kind of shot at the same time, and again you have that nice soft light. It really is great for that kind of shot. So those kind of days for that white sky like that, doing your macro stuff, flowers, things like that are great. Another thing is doing cityscapes.
Oh, okay.
A big problem you have, and we encountered this a lot when we were in Cuba. One side of the street is very dark in the shade. The other side of the street is in bright sunlight.
Yeah, because it doesn't rain in Cuba that much. At least I mean, we've been in there in the summer. It doesn't even rain then. It's supposed to rain in the summer.
Well, I think we were just at the cusp before the rainy season started. But there again, under typical conditions, you have a dark side of the street and a bright side, so you have a really wide dynamic range, and it's tough to get the whole thing. I got a couple shots that worked successful for, but I had to work on those shots to get them like that because I couldn't use HDR because there were people in them that were playing pickleball, so I had the movement. So it's difficult to get that. But if you get a day that's overcast, well, both sides of you don't have that sunlight on the one side of the street, so it's much more even. There may be some directionality of the light, but it's a much lower, narrower dynamic range, so it's easier. In cities that have real tall skyscrapers like New York and Center City, Philadelphia, you have that kind of situation regardless of whether the sky's bright or not, because they're in full shadow all the time. But in towns where you're talking 2-story, 3-story buildings, you have, or if they have real wide streets, you have that where one side's very contrasty. So an overcast day is a perfect time to shoot that. It's good for that kind of street photography where you don't want to deal with all that contrasty difference back and forth.
Yeah, that's
that
great
works
advice.
a lot too.
Anything else? Anything else? Like if you, it's a gloomy day, I'm on vacation, but I want to go take pictures. So I'm going to do my macro photography, my cityscapes. I'm I'm going to get up high and shoot down.
Right. Let me see what else we might do
If
there.
I'm planning a nice photo day and it's cloudy, miserable day.
Well, if it's cloudy, you know, these
Well,
are
I
the
guess
kind
it
of
doesn't
things.
have to be. I don't have to call it miserable just
Yeah,
because it's cloudy. I guess.
It's cloudy. It's not the brilliant sunny sky that you envisioned before you went on vacation or whatever. So you have that, you know, and that can be tough. And there can be other times when the weather can actually be miserable. Maybe it's raining, you know. If it's pouring, it's difficult to do anything outside. So at that point, you move inside. If it's really bad, you know, you start looking for things to do inside. A lot of bigger cities have botanical gardens that have greenhouses.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and you go into the greenhouse and you shoot in there, and it's great. Okay, or you go home and you set up something on a tabletop.
Like what?
Well, you can do some flowers, vegetables. Almost anything. You can make nice compositions on a tabletop and shoot them.
You did something fun, didn't you? Do something cool in the Fort Myers Camera
Club?
Club?
We did this, and
what'd you do?
We made scenes using vegetables, and we put little dinosaur figurines and stuff in.
So you got little plastic dinosaurs that were like an inch big or less than that?
Yeah, they were about an inch, maybe inch and a half.
Okay.
And we got little plastic dinosaurs, and we got some other stuff too. We had Lego people we were using too to do the things with. And we used broccoli and potatoes and all kinds of asparagus, and we built these landscapes out of vegetables, and then we posed all the little dinosaurs in them and shot it. And it wasn't my idea. I can't think of it. There's a photographer that has a book of this kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I can't think of his name to save my soul, but that's what inspired me.
Oh,
you know,
that's such a cute idea.
There were a couple people like that. You know, if you get that idea from more than one person, it's inspiration. If you take it just from one, it's stealing.
Oh, I
That's
see.
the difference. So it's more than one, it's inspiration and research. When you get it from just one guy, you've stolen his idea.
That's a fun idea, though. But so you could just go on the internet and say,
sure, and
inside, what would you
type?
type?
Tabletop photography or fun things to do, and there's all kinds of things.
We have a program that we have.
We have a program. What you're going to be doing at any CCCC, however
Only
many more
3
C's
Cs.
there are, you know. See, at least with my statewide organization, the FCCC, we just say F3C. We don't bother going CCCCCC.
You're right.
You know,
They could. Well, they got the NE though.
Yeah.
NECCC
or whatever.
Well, they could say that, I guess.
It's easier. But anyway, yeah, you can find creative, fun stuff to do. You can do a lot of different tabletop things, or practice lighting. Get some kind of try lighting a cup or a book.
Or you know, what's hard to light that's fun to practice on is a bottle.
Bottle.
Lighting
glassware
is hard.
Glassware is very tough. It's one of the hardest things to light indoors. Second
guitars,
only to,
guitars
I was going to say second only to musical instruments and guns, which are always highly reflective in a lot of different angles. And there's a book, we'll put it in the show notes, Light and Magic and something, but it's got light and magic in there, and it's probably, it's the Bible for lighting. If you read this book and understand it, you can light anything.
Okay.
Science and Light, it's.
You'll find it.
I'll look at it, but
and we'll
yeah, it's a fantastic book, and that's what you want. But go in there and learn and practice that stuff. It's fun. And what's good, even if you never say, oh, well, I'm never going to shoot that kind of product stuff, or it's not me. But what you're going to do is you're going to learn from that and be far more aware of what light does and what direction it's coming from and how you deal with light and things like that. And that's really what photography is about, really is mastering and controlling the light on your subject. Now, you may be controlling it just by, okay, I come back later, but you're still aware of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I would do some kind of search on the internet, like tabletop photography projects or something like that, because we do, like, what do we do? Oil and water, we do hand sanitizer, which you don't even need any extra, you just need a desk lamp.
Yeah, yeah.
And You know, the things that we do need flash for, we do the splash photography and the water drip, and what else do? We do a lot of different things. That's all going to be in the New England Camera Club Council of Camera, I don't know, NECCC.
We used to do the pouring into the glass too, but that gets a little...
That's too complicated.
It's too complicated for a group, but it's fine for just doing yourself.
It's messy
or
though.
for two people.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
But that's a great idea. Just don't deal with it. Just go inside.
Yeah. I mean, you know, that's one thing.
Don't deal with that cloudy day.
You go there, you know, or the advice about the indoors there. When I was in Pittsburgh, I went to their botanical garden. I don't remember the name of it, but they have a fantastic inside display. And since it was November, they had it all decked out for Christmas.
Oh.
And I spent like half a day in there shooting, you know,
Okay.
and the light in there was all nice and even, and I could get all kinds of stuff, and it was midweek and nobody was in there.
Oh, that's nice.
Plus it was warm inside.
Yeah, because November in
Yeah,
Pittsburgh is cold, isn't
being
it?
a Floridian, yeah, it was cold, yeah. And the other thing I did up there is, if it's that miserable, shoot at night. Then the sky's just black. So I did my cityscapes that I wanted to do. But I did my cityscapes of the skyline in Pittsburgh. I did them all at night. It's a cooler cityscape at night, and it didn't matter whether there was clouds in the sky or whatever, because it's just going to be black anyway.
So did you do it at black at night, or did you do it at twilight?
No, I did it at night. I waited till, I mean, ordinarily if it was a nice sky or something like that, twilight's a great time to do it because you get detail in the buildings as well as the lights coming on, and you can get some nice skies, but we didn't have those nice skies.
Wouldn't it still be nicer at twilight?
You're probably not going to get any kind of glow. I wanted to get the whole tops of the buildings and everything, so I was going to have considerable sky in the shots. So I did it that way, you know. Plus I had commitments around dinner time. I wasn't up there to photograph.
I know, but I'm not
yeah.
talking about you. I'm talking for
In
other
general.
people.
Yeah, you could start at twilight, you know, the blue hour as it is, and then shoot later. If I'm doing regular night sky photography, that's about the time I always start. If I'm doing cityscapes.
So like when you say that's like right after sunset?
Right after sunset. Right after sunset.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because then at least you might get a little color in the sky, right?
Yeah.
Because
you'll
even
get
a cloudy sky can turn orange if
if
there's
you get some nice orange or something like that. But right after the sky goes below the buildings, which may not be technically whatever time, because when they're talking sunset, they're talking on the horizon.
Yeah, no, if you've got tall buildings.
Yeah, so it may occur earlier. So you'd be there early enough to get that, and then shoot through the twilight till the sky goes dark.
Okay.
You know, I had commitments when I was there, so I was coming back and I was shooting starting around 11 o'clock at night. I wanted to make sure it got really cold and higher winds than I would have had otherwise, just to be more miserable while I was doing it.
Because November in Pittsburgh is not very
well,
nice.
it was 20 and 30 mile an hour winds all week too, so which was very difficult with the tripod and everything. I was having some issues there trying to block it from the wind. I have a heavy tripod and it was still doing. But anyway, getting back to the subject, it doesn't matter whether it's cloudy or anything else. If you're shooting at night, the sky is black. So then you're just looking at the light off the buildings or whatever it is you're shooting, you know, so you have that.
So your suggestion is to go take a nap and stay
Come
up all
out
night.
later. Yeah, exactly. Another bonus to a sky like that, your light levels, your luminous level is a lot lower. So if you were trying to do some long exposure type work to get some swirly patterns or something like that, you don't need to load up as many neutral density filters because you're probably down 3-4 stops just off the bat.
Now you're talking about back during the day.
Back during the day,
Yeah.
back during the day. Yeah, we got done that night. We had a nap, and then we're up the next morning. It's still miserable because it's not Florida, so we're never had 2 miserable days in a row, unless there's a hurricane.
Yeah. Then we have to.
So, yeah, there again. So you're going to shoot something like that, and you wanted whatever you were going to do with a long exposure. Maybe you were trying to do a stream, and you were looking to do a stream. Coming down. I have a couple shots like that I took in the Smokies. We had gray days up there and drizzle,
So you decided to do long exposures.
So I did long exposures in the streams, and the shots were low enough, so I just had trees. It was trees in the background and the rocky streams coming down through it. Nice, soft, even light. And I could have a nice long exposure without loading up a whole bunch of neutral density filters on the shot.
Okay.
Another thing I have there with the streams like that, and for waterfalls especially, if you're shooting them at a good day with bright sunlight, you always have a dappled effect typically, because you'll have sunlight shining through the leaves and the trees, and so part of the falls will have bright sunlight on it and the other part will be dark, and it's a mess. It's difficult to photograph that. You have a wide dynamic range and it doesn't look good anyway. So if you have a cloudy day, you have more even light, so you don't have to deal with all that dappled reflection and things like that. Cloudy days, if you like to do waterfalls, you look for a cloudy day to do them, because that's when you're going to get the best result.
Okay.
Okay. Otherwise, you got to do it so early or so late that you have the whole waterfall either in full sunlight at midday, which is not going to look good, or so early or late that you're not getting any sundown on it at all.
Okay, so now let's talk about, I'm going to switch a little bit unless you have more on the cloudy days. What about the bright sunny days? Because that's not really the greatest light either, right?
No.
So what if I want to take a waterfall in the bright sunny day?
Oh,
I already
there.
know what you're going to say because you're famous for this, for saying this, but go ahead. You're going to say, use a polarizing filter for sure, right?
I'm going to use a polarizer, and that's going to get rid of the specular highlights on the water. I tried to put a T in there that time on the water. I don't know how successful I was. I'm going to use a circular polarizer in there. It's going to help some. I'm also going to bracket. I'm going to take multiple shots.
Okay.
That way I can control the brighter parts, the parts that are in sunlight, you know, where the sun is shining on the waterfall, and the shots that are in the shade. I'll have multiple exposures that I can blend together in post to get detail in both. Because typically, no matter how good your dynamic range is on the camera, you're probably not going to be able to capture the whole thing, you know. Somebody's going to say, oh, well, my camera does. Well, good, if it does, it's wonderful, but typically it's not. So I'll bracket somewhat. Usually when I bracket something like that, I'll do a 3-shot bracket, 2 stops apart. And that'll usually cover everything.
So you have one that's, if you're metering and shooting in manual mode, one that's you're going to meter on 0.
Right.
And then one you're going to meter on -3.
-2.
Oh, I thought you said 3. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, 2 stops. Yeah.
And
3
then-
shots. So one's
Oh,
minus
3 shots, 2 stops.
Yeah.
3 shots, 2 stops.
Right.
Boy, that was.
Yeah.
That's why I'm explaining it, because it was confusing.
Okay.
I mean, I know it's not
Yeah.
confusing. It is confusing. Did that make sense? So one with the meter on 0, one with the meter on -2, and one shot with the meter on +2.
Right.
And then you can blend those easily.
Exactly.
Well, nowadays you can blend them in Photoshop, Lightroom, but
Yeah.
and then all the HDR software, it makes it so easy.
And if
And
you had the
then
magic
you-
camera that didn't need to do it, well, good. Then you throw the other 2 shots away when you get home, but they're there if you need them.
Now, but can you do a slow shutter speed of like a silky water of a waterfall in the bright sun?
Well, there what you're going to have to do is we talked about neutral density filters. Neutral density filters are like sunglasses for your camera. They reduce the light coming in to the camera.
Okay.
And they come in different densities, different levels of darkness to see how much you want to restrict it. So you would put one on that would reduce the light by, say, 3 stops, or 6 stops, or 10 stops, which are common ones, and you can combine them. You can put one on top of the other. And my circular polarizer generally reduces the light by about 2 stops too.
Okay.
So just having a...
But you can't use a circular polarizer with a neutral density. Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. Just put it on
Last.
as last, because you need to be able to turn the circular polarizer, so that has to be the last thing on the lens.
Okay, so
Thing
you
furthest,
stack these
you
lenses,
stack
and the thing about filters is you got to buy good ones.
Absolutely.
Because I bought a cheap one. I thought, oh, I don't
Yeah.
want to spend that kind of money. I bought a cheap one, and guess what? It looks like crap.
Yeah.
It has it's like an X in the middle of the picture. I don't know. It's just not even, you know. So,
what was that? A variable?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't like them at all.
Yeah, well, I don't like them either now that I
they're-
bought one, because I
even
thought
the-
I'm going to try this because then I only need one. And
And guess what? Even the good ones, the expensive ones, they still do that, just not as much.
it's got an X in the middle of the
Yeah,
picture.
because what it is basically what they're doing there is they're taking two circular polarizers that are working in opposite directions and putting them together.
Oh,
So it doesn't work the same way as,
well, it doesn't work.
yeah, they
Don't
don't.
get the, what was it called?
A very
Variable.
variable. Yeah,
Don't
you're
do it.
much
Don't
better
do it.
off. You're much
I already
better
wasted
off
the
getting,
money.
you're much better off getting like a 3-stop, 6-stop or something like that.
And then they can screw, like you screw one onto the end of your lens, and then you can screw another one onto that. and-
Right.
Okay.
The caution there is, if you're dealing with a very wide-angle lens, you may start to get vignetting, darkening of the corners because it's seeing the edges of the polarizer because it's sticking out so far.
Oh.
And that's going to vary depending on your lens and how your lens is constructed as to where those threads are relative to the glass, whether it's
So
further
make sure you
out or
have a little
whatever.
extra room to crop.
Yeah, so if that's the case, that's exactly what you do. Shoot a little wider so you don't have to worry about it. But that neutral density filter will let you get that silky water under any kind of circumstances.
So what else? If I want to shoot landscapes in harsh, bright noon sun, what else do I have to do? Because that's another situation
well-
of bad lighting.
Well, it is. If the sun's directly overhead, all you can do is kind of look for maybe you have some kind of canyons or something, and you can get something in there. Because you're not going to get detail if the sun's directly overhead. You need it off to the side. We talk about, typically everybody says, the hour or the golden hour is an hour to an hour and a half as the sun comes up or before it sets, because the sun is real low in the sky, so it casts more severe shadows, which brings out the textures and dimension. What a lot of people forget is the sun is much lower in the winter than it is in the summer.
In general.
In
like
general.
all day long,
Like
you mean?
all day long.
Uh-huh.
It's always lower. So that golden hour, or if you start saying, instead of saying the golden hour, you say degrees of the sun above the horizon, you have a much longer time you can shoot. You may be able to shoot to 11 o'clock because the sun's so low. The further north you get, the lower it's going to be too.
Okay, so 11 o'clock in the daytime, you
In the
meant.
daytime, yeah. So in other words, you're stretching that out. Instead of having maybe a magic hour you can shoot, maybe now you have a magic 3 hours you can shoot because
So,
the sun's going to
okay.
be low enough that whole time.
And the sun, it's a shorter day too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're saying just either get up a little early or wait it out
Right, yeah.
and start it, well, if the sun goes down at what, like 5:30
Yeah.
or something
I did
in the winter?
I did Red Rock Canyon and Valley of Fire in December several years ago. And we did that the week leading up to Christmas, because we come back right before Christmas, the day before Christmas. So I was shooting there for like 2 weeks before that. And we could almost shoot till it was time to break for lunch, and we'd take like a 3-hour break in the middle of the day or 2-hour, and we could go back and start shooting again because the light was low the whole time. And we had intense sunlight out there the whole time too, but the light was low and we had great time. So it didn't matter that hour in the middle, because we could take a break there. If it's dead overhead, there's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do.
So if it is overhead and you're at Red Rock Canyon, which I don't know anything about, bring a scrim with you and do some macro or something.
Yeah, do some macro.
Bring a scrim or even
shoot
like,
things in the shade again.
probably the best thing would be one of those reflectors that has, what are they called? Like they have, you can zip.
3-in-1 or 5-in-1.
Yeah,
I
where
guess they're 5-in-1. I have to count what they are.
So
I
you have
got
a
one
scrim in
sitting
the
on the
middle.
table for our trip.
You got a scrim in the middle, and then you have the reflector like gold, silver.
Yeah,
On the
you have
and
gold,
white,
silver,
and
white,
black.
yeah, white and black, gold and silver. Yeah,
And you
so it's
can
5-in-1.
unzip it.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's 5-in-1, and they come.
In every
The
size.
size that pops out to about 30 inches is only about 8 or 9 inches maybe.
So you could stick it easily in your
Yeah,
backpack
yeah.
and just carry it with
Yeah.
you while you're out there and say, okay,
Yeah.
it's the middle of the day. We'll break for lunch and we'll do some, we'll get some cactus. Do they have
Do some-
cactus out there?
yeah,
I don't know what they have
yeah.
out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's great for that. Or just shoot things that are in the shade. Look for, with the mountains, there's always one side there's going to, even at noon, you have shady spots. So look for some trees or some composition in the shade and just shoot in the shade.
Okay.
You know, and do the same thing if you're doing portraits of people.
That's exactly what
I
I have one of those big reflectors that it's a whatever the big
Yeah.
one, and you know, of course here in Naples, Florida, we do a lot of sunset portraits. So I would say start an hour before sunset. Well, sometimes you get there and the lighting is still really harsh. So we do the smaller groupings, and I train all my customers to hold that reflector over the people to get shade so that I have even lighting on their face, but then I light them with flash. So I can still balance the background and get the
fill.
pretty blue sky. But yeah, keeping one of those reflectors with you at all times. Just have it in your backpack or whatever.
On that same trip, when I was out, it's all stuff around Vegas, and we went to this kind of ghost town kind of thing. The name will come to me in a minute. If it doesn't, we'll have to put it in the show notes. But it's a great place. It's like this guy's junk collection, all stuff laying around. But they also used it for movie sets. And you go in there, and you pay by the hour to shoot in the place.
Oh, how
So,
fun.
and it's cool. It's really highly recommended. They don't advertise. Nelson, Nevada is where it is. It's in Nelson, the ghost town in Nelson, Nevada. And you don't see it advertised or anything like this or any things, but it's a photographer playground. And a lot of the wedding photographers in Vegas, that's where they go to do on location kind of stuff. Well, we were there, and one of the big wedding outfits in Vegas had given all their guys and girls the days off, so we're out there with some models, and they were all shooting. So they all got their camera, and they all got the little reflector hooked onto their belt. Every one of them running around, they all had the same kind of camera. They all got the reflector there, so they were all set. So they were even in that situation using the reflector. Again,
as
controlling
a shade,
the
though,
light.
not as a reflector, as a shade.
Yeah, like a little of both, you know. But again, you're controlling the light. And then you get days where you do have the clouds. And now this is great.
Because then you have texture.
Then you have texture in the clouds, and this is fantastic. We look for that here in southern Florida. We get out in the Everglades, and you have the river of grass and maybe some trees in it or a mahogany hammock or something like that. And then every afternoon, you get these thunder clouds that come up, these thunderheads that come up.
In the summer.
In the summer, yes, yeah. Yeah, we keep that to ourselves. The tourists don't see that because they're all here in the winter.
They come in the winter when there's
and
no
we
clouds.
don't tell anybody that the best time to photograph Florida is in the summer.
It sure is.
Because you get these magnificent cloud structures that are just awesome, and you can shoot them. And that's a lot of fun to shoot. And some people would say that's bad time to shoot, but it isn't. It's great.
Yeah. Well, Clyde Butcher made a big name
Absolutely.
shooting those clouds.
Yeah, definitely.
So what if it does rain, or what about lightning? What about lightning? What about, because I'm picturing being out in the Everglades, because those storms are lightning storms. We get a lot of lightning.
Well,
can you photograph lightning during the day?
Yeah. It's so bright. I mean, I don't know technically if it is, but it's almost like the sun with the brightness level. You know, that bolt of lightning. I don't know what the technical, if it is, but it's certainly bright enough that you can photograph it. If you've set up a good exposure for the rest of the scene, the lightning is certainly going to be visible, you know. And since there's no texture in lightning, it's just the shape. You know, you don't have to worry about anything like that. Like if you're doing fireworks, you have to worry about making the exposure dark enough to get the color so the color doesn't wash out.
Oh, okay.
You know?
I wasn't following
No,
you.
lightning is just white, so
Yeah.
it's or whatever, you know, it is. So you just have a white streak in there, so you can expose.
So how
for the
do I
rest
do
of
it? I'm out in the Everglades. I see, because one of the things that I love about Florida is you can see the rain, because it's so flat that when it's coming down, you see the beginning and the end of where it's falling down. And then, so I'm looking out over the Everglades, and I see a storm over there pretty far, and there's lots of lightning, and I want to photograph it.
Well, first thing, you want to be in a safe location.
Yes. Don't be standing in water with
Lightning
snakes
is one
and
of the big
alligators.
causes of people get killed with lightning, and Florida is like the lightning capital of the United States. So this is the place to shoot the lightning. But people get killed every year.
Oh,
you
I
know,
know.
you
Somebody
don't
just
want to
died
be
in
out.
Sarasota
You don't want to be out. The only thing around on top of a hill with your aluminum tripod and you standing up big and tall, because you're going to get hit. You're going to get killed.
All right.
And no picture's worth getting killed for, I don't think. I mean,
I am with you.
So make sure you're in some kind of overhead shelter maybe, you know, or something like that, or maybe you're shooting it from your car, you know, out the window of the car or something like that, because you have a metal shell around you. So you find someplace safe to shoot from. And then there's a couple ways you can do it. The most technical way is to buy yourself one of these lightning triggers. And they go anywhere from maybe 125 to God knows whatever you want to spend, depending on what else they do besides lightning. And the good ones, they make up, now, you know, when you press the shutter, there's a delay there until things actually shoot, right? So it's difficult to, if you're just shooting by hand, oh, I see the lightning, and you press the shutter. Well, the lightning's probably gone by the time you do it, because there's a reaction time and the camera doing it.
Okay.
So what these,
I wasn't following you, sorry.
So, okay, maybe I wasn't clear. So what the triggers do, before the actual, my understanding is before the actual lightning bolt takes place, there's, I don't know which end of the spectrum it's at. You know, there's like a flash that's coming that is visible to the sensor on these lightning things. So they fire then, so by the time it gets to your camera and your camera opens the shutter, you're catching it. You catch it.
So it's some kind of
sensor. It's seeing the initial...
The pre-flash.
Kind of like a pre-flash, you know. I guess it's continuous and it's just changing in the spectrum, but whatever it is, it sees it and it fires. So if you don't have something like that, do a time exposure, do it on bulb.
Okay, so what? How to just walk people through that?
Okay, so you're, and this you would have to be doing at night rather than during the day. Okay, because during the day you're. So
during the day is the only way to photograph lightning? Is the only way to get one of those lightning trigger things?
Or be lucky. I mean, you could do short, depending on how dark it is and how dark you make your shot. You may be able to keep your shutter open for, you know, a couple seconds or whatever.
What if you just hit it on? Like you could feel it coming, you just hit the continuous, then it's just the same thing though, you're just getting lucky.
Yeah, and you know, so you could take short bursts like you do with fireworks, you know, and hopefully you'll get the shot in there. At night when it's dark, just like with fireworks, you put your camera on bulb, all right, and then you see the lightning going on, you aim your camera where you want it, you open the shutter, you wait till the flash or multiple flashes take place, and then you close your shutter. So you're getting the shot there. It's got to be dark enough so you don't overexpose the rest of the shot. Typically during the day you're going to have, you could probably load up the neutral density filters to give you a slow enough shutter speed where you have more chances of getting a couple bursts. You could do it that way, you know, which essentially you put enough ND filters on there, you're making it night.
Yeah,
you know, you could try something like that. I haven't tried it that way. Usually when I've done lightning, I've done it at night or in the evening when it's dark, and it's worked out that way. It gets pretty dark when the lightning hits anyway, unless it's a long way off. But the slow shutter speed, or not a slow shutter speed, but a long enough shutter speed that you might get a burst in there, and then you're just trying to get lucky. Because if you're trying to react to it, by the time you react to it,
no way.
No, it's not going to happen. You know, you're just getting lucky doing it that way.
Now Jeff wrote an article on our understandphotography.com, so check out our understandphotography.com in the blog section. I'm not sure where it is, and I'm not, because our website's new. We just got a new website this week. I don't know if there's a search bar on there. I can't remember. But if there is no search bar, you just type into the address, you type understandphotography.com and then make a space and put lightning, and you'll find that article. And plus, we'll put it in the show notes, because it was a good, he made it simple. He's a good writer.
Yeah, very.
So, okay, what else? What else?
All right, well, you know, we've been dealing with situations where we have just a dull, dead, boring sky, and the advice there is don't shoot the sky, basically.
Okay.
We've dealt with where we have high contrast at noon, and we've talked about how we can get away with that. We've talked about shooting macro under diffuse light. We've talked about waterfalls are great to do and this kind of thing. The other thing to do is if it's really miserable, we talked about Forgotten Coast. And when I did the last workshop at Forgotten Coast, I wanted to find some new spots to shoot to add to what we do. So you have to do this before or after the workshop. So I was great. I said, I'll go up there a day early and I'll be able to do a day's scouting. Well, it poured. It was a deluge with high winds the whole time. But I could still go scouting for locations because I could drive around in the pouring rain. To do some of it, I had to get out and get wet to go up trails to look for what I was looking. But it's a good time to scout positions. Maybe not even pouring rain. Maybe it's just drizzling. Maybe it's just overcast or too windy and it's just not a day you want to shoot. Well, scout your locations. Go out to a place and say, okay, the sun's going to set over here, or the sun's going to rise over here. So I want to come back, and you can get apps for your phone. I use Sun Surveyor. There's TPE, the Photographer's Ephemeris. There's one called Photo Pills, and all these things will show you where the sun's going to come up and the sun's going to set, and all these things. So you can go out there and you can scout on the lousy day, so you know when to come back when the light's going to be right, where you want to be positioned to get your sunset shot or your sunrise shot, or what's going to be a good location for a midday shot or anything else. You go out and you spend the day not photographing, but making your plans. Okay. You plan your shots, and that can be very productive. I mean, if you have a whole week, like when I was in Pittsburgh and it's going to be cloudy all week, well, you have to do other things. But if it was going to be one day like that, maybe instead of doing what I did, I just go around and plan where I'm going to get those shots when I get that great day the next day. Okay. So scouting is a great thing to do and plan. And that's another thing to do midday. And we did a little bit of that at different places too. You have the midday, you really can't shoot, but you can certainly look for locations to shoot for when the light is more optimal later or earlier in the day or whatever. So you can always, I always like in a place to go around first and just scout it out and start planning when to do it. And of course, you know, you'll get information from books and things like that. We're getting ready to go up to Acadia and scout out there. So I've done a lot of checking in different books, and I've pulled up my Sun Surveyor, and I know what time the Milky Way is going to come up and what time it's going to set and where we have to be, where it's going to be in the sky. So when we get up there, right away I can start looking for foreground objects to put in the shot and where I want to be to get that Milky Way at night, or where I want to be to get that sunrise or sunset. And plan like that. Do the planning. Okay. Plan for when the light's right.
And you know what I just remembered too? I don't know why I didn't think to talk about this. Here in Southwest Florida, or South Florida in general, it pretty much rains every day in the summer.
But not all day. Let's be clear about what that is. It's an hour or 2 hours.
Okay, so anyway, let me finish my thought.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't want everybody to think it's raining all day.
Well, okay, so it rains pretty much every day, but that doesn't mean it's going to rain all day, is what I was going to say. Because I just, you know, we've had some just massive, massive thunderstorms and rainy day for hours and hours. Usually the rain only lasts an hour, but sometimes it's raining and raining and raining. And I took a little video one time. My friend Nancy got married and I did her wedding a few years ago, and she got married in June or May or something, I forget. It wasn't supposed to be, it wasn't the rainy season yet, but it was miserable. I took a little video. I was like, oh boy, I got a wedding today, because it was just pouring, pouring, pouring rain. Oh my gosh, it was one of the most beautiful sunsets I have ever seen in my life, and I have seen amazing sunsets because of where I live. And so anytime somebody's visiting here, I'm like, just sometimes if it's miserable, you're going to get a better sunset. So just keep that in mind. Don't give up for the whole day. It could get better.
Things change.
So.
And when the rain stops too, we have all these fabulous reflections.
One of the things that's cool in this area in the rain, if you go to the pier, it's not raining too hard, if it's just drizzling or something. We have all this in the summer, only in the summer. Again, our secret is it's better here in the summer. But we have all the stingrays lapping along the shore, and from the pier you can see them so clearly, and it's so cool. You get a lot more wildlife action in the kind of drizzly day too, because the wildlife is, you know, that's an idea. That's something we didn't even talk about, shooting birds.
Well, we'll have to have another whole talk on that.
Yeah, but I mean, on a cloudy day, birds are a great subject to photograph.
They're good on a cloudy day. If we're talking that white thing, they're good on the ground, but they're kind of boring in the air.
I was thinking of perched birds.
Yeah, perched.
I wasn't thinking of flying birds. Yeah,
but if you
I
get
haven't
them on
actually
the ground,
mastered flying birds yet.
That's. I love that because it's a really challenging subject. You know, because you have to know all about the bird, and you have to be aware of the light and everything else. So that's a subject that takes a lot of effort to master. That's why our guest coming up on the 100th episode, Artie Morris. Now there's a guy that knows the birds and how to photograph them.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
So August 10th is our 100th episode with Artie Morris, and we're going to do questions and answers live. But please send in your questions early. So you send them to info@understandphotography.com, so that we can, you know, have kind of some banked up, and then we'll be taking some questions live as well. That's August 10th. So bird photographers, be sure you tune in for Artie Morris. So where can our viewers find and listeners find out more about you and your workshops?
Well, on our new website,
understandphotography.com.
We have all our upcoming workshops for this season. I'm excited about them. We're going to be going back to the Forgotten Coast, which is the Panhandle, the beginning of the Panhandle in Florida. Fabulous shooting opportunities there, the Dead Lakes that you mentioned with Captain Matt. It's old Florida, so we have a lot of quaint little towns. We have fishing boats and all kinds of disrepair, working boats, things like that, lakes, landscapes, wonderful sunsets, a lot of interesting things, a couple lighthouses.
It's a dream for landscape photographers.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
My favorite place in the whole world.
And I throw in some old cars too, because I like old rusty cars.
Yeah,
you know,
even I like those old rusty cars.
So that's cool. We have an Everglades trip coming up. We do the Everglades, and we know the Everglades. We live here, so we know where to go and what to shoot. And since we're familiar with it, the Everglades can be iffy. One year the water level can be real low and you have one kind of shooting, another it can be real high and you have a different kind of shooting. So you have to know where to go depending on what it is. Yeah. So we know what to do and where to go, and we have alternate plans. We have plan Bs too.
Yeah, well, and you've helped a lot of our guests who do Everglades tours, because they don't know where to go when things go wrong, but we do.
Yeah, we'll do some consulting there.
So that is, I have the date there, but I don't know if I can read it. Let's see. I have my glasses on. January 31st through February 3rd is Joe's 4-day Everglades adventure. And I think you've only got 3 spots left. So that's, all of our trips are selling really well, so keep that in mind. And then you go to St. Augustine, April 22nd through the 24th. Is that what that says?
11th to the 14th.
Oh gosh, my eyes are bad.
11th to the, that's our St. Augustine birds and buildings. 11th to the 14th. That's a great, it's a variety. I like to mix things.
And do bird photography
I like to mix things up. So we do bird photography in the morning at one of the most fabulous rookeries in the U.S. to do them at. Fantastic, wide variety. The time of year when we go there, they're nesting, there's chicks, there's nest building, depending on
even
what
I
the
liked it,
season's
and I'm not that into birds.
But
they're so close to you.
And this is the other thing, you know, this is not a place where you need an 800 millimeter lens to get the birds. Sometimes a 200's too long, because sometimes they can be an arm's length away, and other times they'll be a little further, but you can get great shots. The light is good when we go in the morning. We have good light there. It's still before rainy season, so typically, I say typically, but not always, it's pretty dry when you're there. And then we shoot in the afternoons and evenings. We shoot all the historic buildings in St. Augustine.
The oldest city in the nation.
Oldest city in the U.S. So we have all kinds of interesting doors and buildings and cobbled streets and all kinds of things. Churches and fabulous churches. So there's a lot to shoot there. So it makes for a nice variety of mixing things up. And people really enjoy that.
And the fort.
And the fort, we have the fort there, which is fantastic to shoot.
Which
we
was
go in
built
there.
in 1600 and something. I forget.
Yeah, I don't remember
It's
the
cool.
date.
It's
I don't
really
remember
cool.
the date it was done, but we have that. So it's really a fabulous opportunity to shoot a variety of stuff.
And then the Forgotten Coast in Florida is May. I can't read it.
May 13th to the 17th.
So those are your 3 trips
Those
this
are
year.
the 3 big ones. We also do some day trips that we do. We do some to Miami. We do some to Mayaca, and we do a short one into the Everglades, just for the little more local kind of thing. So we do them.
Okay.
So,
all right. And so that's all on our new website, understandphotography.com, as well as the trips that I'm leading are on there as well. So don't forget to check the show notes. We should have them up. Heather gets them done Monday, Tuesday, something like that. Peggy Farren, thanks for watching episode number 95 of the Understand Photography Show. We'll see you next week, but don't forget, enter our contest. I can't remember, it's listed on the contest what the prizes are every week. Okay, I will see you next week. Thank you for watching the Understand Photography Show. It would help us immensely if you would click like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.